Hey everyone, it's Crystal here, Sober Onions podcast. I am super excited today. I know it's been a little while since we've done a podcast. Today I am actually 145 days sober, which I cannot believe. I really can't. But I have my friend here, Synthia. Say hi, Synthia.
Hi, Cynthia.
Oh
I
my
mean, hi,
gosh.
Crystal. I know that's your favorite
Yeah,
part.
I know it is. It's so funny. I've really got to come up with something different. But we are here in Ventura. We are recording on a Sunday morning early. We were just talking about how we could never do this before when we were drinking because we would be hungover. So there would be no way we would want to even get up, let alone talk on a podcast. So that's kind of funny that we're here and it's early in the morning and we are going to talk about our sobriety and the ups and downs and what's new in our life. And like I said, I'm 145 days sober. And if you have been listening to the podcast, you might have picked up on the fact that I have not talked to my kids. My kids have not spoken to me for my youngest. It's been over 2.5 years, and she's 20. And my oldest is 21, and I went to Waco, Texas with her last October with the family. My family is a big surf family, so we went to Waco to test out the wave machine park, which was fabulous. It was incredible. My daughter surfs, and I had not spoken to her since October, and I actually received a text message from her yesterday, and that was huge. And thank God I was on the phone with my sponsor because she was like, put your fingers away, because when I was drinking, I always would text people. I always was calling everybody, and especially with my kids, I felt like I could use the phone as, basically the avenue to tell them, what to do. And you really can't parent your kids through a phone or text messaging, but I thought that I could when I was drinking.
Yeah.
And my daughter asked me not to text back, and that was the hardest thing because I've been waiting for almost a year to just have a streamline. Like, I'm not really looking to like be in their life like I was when when they were little or when they were younger. I really just am, just wanting some communication, nothing major, just so that we're in each other's lives. So right. I did not text her
That's
back.
great.
I is really good. So I, and it's hard because, you deal with all these emotions. Like, I immediately had to like pull my truck over. I was crying. I was like, oh my God. But then I'm like angry because I'm like, resentful that they didn't call me on Mother's Day and they didn't call me on my birthday. Right. But, I mean, they lived with an alcoholic mother. So I have to factor all that in. And, it's really hard. So my sponsor and I did some extra homework that day, which was yesterday. And then she had me write a letter to my kids. And, that way I could kind of get it out and, they don't have to see it. They can be in their own world and continue doing what they're doing. And I can just continue to be a living amends. Right. So that's kind of what's new in my life. And obviously the podcast is going great. At the end, I've got a couple shout outs. So we've got some new patrons or patrons, which is exciting, and some new sponsors. And we're going to be doing some exciting things like, giving away lots of swag to, the followers. And it's pretty incredible. I started my Instagram with like 80 likes and they like transferred over from like my family and friends. And now we're like almost at 800 within like 4 weeks, which is awesome. So we're getting there slowly but surely. But anyway, so let's talk about you. Enough about me. And so Synthia, so you tell me a little bit about, where you're from, what's your story, and how long you've been sober and why you're sober and how you got sober.
All right. Well, I'm going to start a little bit from the beginning. I'm from Ventura County. I'm fairly young, I guess I've heard, is I'm 32 years old. So I was just listening to you about your story with your kids, and they'll come around, right? They're going to come around in their own time. I've had experience with a parent who drank alcohol in excess. I'm not going to say they're alcoholic because they haven't identified yet, but I would assume that a lot of the behaviors that I inherited were were observant. So I have actually been sober now. Well, I don't like to say sober per se. I like to say I haven't had a drink in
Okay.
10 months, 20 20 days. So that comes out to about 325 days. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
Wow.
It'll be a year in November that I would have gone without a drink, and I have to be clear about that. I think you've heard me share before that I um, one of the hurdles to getting sober was, not believing that I was such a bad alcoholic. You go and you sit in on meetings and you realize, hey, maybe I'm not as bad as that person. So I could probably continue to do this, right? And that's not the right approach. The best part about wanting to stop drinking is just the desire to stop drinking, right? That's how you find your people. So that was the hurdle, maybe non-alcoholic beers, dabbling in some other kinds of things until I got myself straight. I said, okay, well, as long as I'm not picking up was my thing, don't drink, whatever I need to do to not drink, have that cupcake, have that cigarette, whatever your other vice was, for me, it's iced coffee right now. I drink a lot of iced coffee. Um, Sugar is up,
Yeah.
I had to compensate for all the drinking I was doing.
Mine is
So,
ice cream. Ice cream. It's
yes,
ridiculous. I've eaten more ice cream in the last 5 months I ever have. And then I just went to the doctor's and he's like, stop. like
yes,
like you're pre-diabetic. Knock it off. And I'm like, okay,
right.
sorry. All right,
Yeah,
Rocky Road, we gotta break up.
exactly. I had to break up with alcohol, like it was just taking too much out of me. And I didn't have what you would call a rock bottom per se, but there's layers to this onion, right?
Yes.
And I I don't have any children right now, and I wasn't court ordered to do a program. So I think that's what makes my story a little different is I woke up one day after an event that was a catalyst to me getting sober, and I said that was enough, so it's been difficult because I have to think every day why I'm doing this, and I find different reasons every day. um I haven't lost jobs, and my life appeared to be manageable, but um that event that happened 10 months ago really put into perspective that I was affecting the lives of everybody who cared about me.
Can I
Um,
ask what the event was? Like, what is it that
yes.
made? Okay.
So it was a blackout, and I've had blackouts as a drinker before, but this one was the worst I've ever had, because I can't recall any of it, any of the 24 hours. I remember this, getting to the bar. I was having a bad day in general. I drank to get out of control, right? To not take any accountability for anything that was going on in my life. My life's very meticulous and structured. So and my job is hard. So I drink to, get away from all that. So in November, had gotten some news from my doctor, and I didn't have any tools in my toolbox. I didn't know what to process. I wasn't in a relationship that, was super supportive. And I had gotten some news at the doctor, and I was like, wow, I'm suddenly not in control anymore. Like when the doctor starts to call you about like what your body is going through, and you just don't have control of that. Like my response was like, oh my God. Basically my doctor was telling me that I couldn't have children, like that we
Oh,
needed to
wow.
start, yeah, like we have been chasing this cervical cancer situation that I've, been dealing with for like 3 years now. So my sober journey started about 3 years ago when I realized, hey, maybe my drinking would kind of counter the health issues that I'm experiencing now, because I'm only in my 30s, so that should tell you that the last 12 years of partying has taken a toll on my body, and I needed to kind of get it together. I noticed it was affecting my work and things like that. And people were starting to notice that I was drinking about 3 years ago. Um, so yeah, 10 months ago, I got that phone call and I didn't know what to do. So what I did was drink, I took a handle of vodka, I believe, and that's my issue. I'm a drinker, so I drink anything. I don't have a preference, wine, liquor, beer, whatever it is. Warm, I would drink it warm. So it was just to get wasted. I don't have a preference for what would taste like, So went out with some friends, certainly left my car there. So that was a positive, right? Because I normally try to drive. And it was really embarrassing when my friends and my family needed to start taking my keys away, and so that night, in detail, I woke up the next morning bloodied, bruised. I had been in car accidents. I had been in blackouts, like I said. I've gone to jail. I've done all these different things that I've never really had a consequence that was walking with me that everybody could see until 10 months ago. I busted my face. I had to get stitches. Like I couldn't eat for a week. I lost 10 pounds. It was so mortifying, but it was during COVID. So I could wear a mask,
Oh
right?
gosh,
And
yeah,
just
right.
hide all the injuries that I had and just wear pants, and for a week, I just didn't tell anybody what was going on. I couldn't tell anybody what had happened. I didn't know if I was assaulted. I don't know if I was around people that I could trust. I don't know how I got home that night. All I know is that in the morning, my dad was at my front door, which is weird. I'm 32 years old. He's not usually over unless there's an emergency. And he's cleaning me up and he's trying to figure out what's going on. And I can't even make a police report because I'm still drunk, and the hospital is like, so what do you want to do? And there's nothing I can do. I don't remember a thing, and it's embarrassing. And the officers are like in there because they're like, you look like you got hit by a car, like, or somebody assaulted you, or you were beat up, or like you don't remember a thing. And I couldn't remember anything. I couldn't remember anything. And it was the one time. Normally in blackouts, there's something you can recall, right? And this was the it was insane to me.
Wow. And so
Yeah.
you even went to the hospital, got
Yep.
stitches, don't remember
Hmm.
anything. So, wow, what a night. Yeah, and it's
Right.
funny because, we have movies and we have all these things that joke about it, but it's not a
Hmm.
joke. There's no joke here. Like getting drunk, getting blackout, waking up the next day and having to get stitches. I mean, like you said, that's not only embarrassing, but you're having to look at yourself in the mirror every day and feel it, and I'm sure you were in pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had to hurt, right?
Oh yeah.
So at that point, so here you are, just, like you said, you not necessarily had a rock bottom, like you said, you didn't lose a job, or you didn't get a DUI, you left your car at the bar. And I think this happens so often, and that's why people don't get sober,
Hmm.
because that night happens and they go, whoa, okay, I'm just not going to tell anyone.
Right.
I'm just not going to tell anyone, and then I'm going to brush it off, and then I'm going to drink again next weekend,
Uh-huh.
and I'm going to be more careful, because that's what I would
Right.
do. If I
Hmm.
had, like, one time my kids were at their friend's house, and there was this comedy club that I would go to where I lived in Melbourne, and it's really cool because it changed into a coffee shop because the owner got sober, which is awesome, and I love him to death. And I remember when he got sober, because I thought, oh my god, like, he got sober, that's weird, like, I've never seen him without a drink. So it was really awesome that happened. But I would go to this club, and I got so drunk. I think I had like 2 bottles of wine. Like, my bill, I couldn't even like, the next day I was like, well, who was with me? Nobody. It was just me. And I ended up getting in my car, and I literally sat there and went, I can't drive. Like,
Hmm.
I couldn't even like drive. And I know that in the state of Florida, like, you can't have your keys, right? Like, if you have your keys with you, like, you can get a DUI even if you're like not driving. And somehow that came in my head, so I like threw my keys to the bushes, like, and then got in my car and like passed out.
Yeah.
And so I wake up because there's someone knocking on the window, right? Because I apparently that night, because I came to the bar drunk, I parked next to the trash can, like the dumpster, and I parked so crooked that the trash guy came and he couldn't even get the dumpster out. So he had to knock on my door or on my window, wake me up and be like, ma'am, can you move your car because I can't do my job? And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God. So then I remember I threw my keys in the bushes, right? And I'm like, oh my God, where are my keys? So I have to get out while these two dudes are in the truck. They're in their like giant truck, or not trash truck, and I'm searching through bushes. And I look like Medusa. My hair is like
Yeah.
everywhere. My clothes are sideways because I've been in the car. I'm totally
Yeah.
hungover. I'm probably still drunk, like you said.
Uh-huh.
And I'm searching in the bushes for my keys. And I
Yeah.
finally like get my keys and I like look at them. I'm like, hi, sorry, like let me get in my car. And I like back up my car and I'm still drunk. I still can't drive. And it's like 6 a.m. So I pulled over into this other parking lot. Of course, it's 6 a.m. and it's a Sunday because that was a Saturday night. So it's like, it's dead everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I still can't drive. Like I'm still drunk. And so I had to sit there and I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my God. And nobody knew. Like
Yeah.
no one knew. So I sobered up, I went, got coffee, got an energy drink, got great, everything you do after to try and like make yourself better. And I went home and of course I felt like so stupid and so remorse and like embarrassed, but like no one knew. So I just moved on.
Yeah.
And I was out the next, literally that day I slept and then went to the beach and drank again with my friends.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's like you said, it's really hard to get sober because a lot of times things like that happen. I didn't lose my job. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't lose your job. No one
Right.
knew. You're sitting here with stitches on your face. You have no idea why. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, do I stop drinking? Do I have a problem?
Right. I
Like
think, yeah.
you're
At that point, yeah,
yeah,
when my life was unmanageable, that was
exactly.
unacceptable for me.
Exactly.
That's
Unfortunately, I wasn't smart enough at that time because, I was getting away with it. I was getting
yeah.
away with it. So now here you are and
Mm-hmm.
stitches, your dad knows, people are like, okay, what was the next step? Like for someone who is maybe feeling like you are like, hey, like I've had some nights like that and I don't know what to
Mm-hmm.
do. What did you do? What was your next step? Because I met you at a meeting.
Right.
So you obviously have taken the steps to do it all on your own.
Yeah.
And, like you said, you're not court ordered to go. So tell me about how did you get the courage to do what you did and what was your method?
It was, well, I got my courage from my mom, who has been my biggest support through all of this. She's noticed her daughter change over time and she realized, you know, she's has always told me, as a kid, please do not drink or use drugs because I know in your family, it runs in your family and it's going to take a hold of you and I'm not going to be able to be there or protect you. My prayers might not be able to keep you very safe any
Mm-hmm.
longer. Your angels are tired and just constantly just trying to get me to stop drinking. And so that night, after I did the body check in the morning, make sure I had phone wallet keys, make sure the grill of my car didn't have any blood on it, that kind of stuff, the stupid checks that you do in the morning. And she went with me, to clean up my apartment because it looked like I had beat myself up in my own apartment. So we had a conversation that day and she called a cousin who has 10, 12 years of sobriety and he had a girlfriend who went to a women's meeting near where I lived. I could walk there. So I got in touch with that lady and she said, I'll pick you up. And that terrified me because I don't like people picking me up. I like to be in my own car. I have to be in control, right? So I said, I'll meet you there. And I crawled my way to that first meeting and I was so embarrassed and I was so shameful. And I was like, what am I even doing here? I couldn't even make it to the grass without even like crying. And I couldn't walk very well. I was still hurt, I didn't understand. And people kept saying, did you get hit by a car? And I'm like, I have no idea. I have no idea. So just, yeah, I made it to my first meeting and then I just kept going. I only went to one meeting a week just to get started. I've been notorious for a 1 foot out, 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of concept. I've been really honest in my attending meetings that I struggle with my higher power. I'm a confirmed Catholic. I don't go to church every day or every Sunday, but I do pray. So I kind of just started talking to my, higher power and putting my mom's prayers to work. The best gift that I could ever give my mom in her lifetime was probably being sober. And that's what keeps me sober. relationships like this, like meeting you and being present for my family in the way that they expected their daughter to be there for them. You know, I'm a sister too, and I used to set an example for my brother. And then there came a point where he was disappointed in me. He couldn't even talk to people about me, you know, and there's only two of us. It's me and my brother. So I had to take some inventory, you know, look into myself every day. And there's just so many benefits to having clarity, you know. I had put myself, my sense of self on the back burner. You know, I wasn't raised this way. I wasn't raised to be a fall down drunk, you know. I was raised with this potential, and you know,
Yeah, it's
that's kind of
incredible.
where.
I know people,
Mhm.
I say the same thing. It's amazing that I am an alcoholic because I grew up
Mhm.
in a beautiful Christian home. My
Right.
parents never drank, and I do believe, drinking or using whatever your choice of addiction is. Mine was alcohol.
Mhm.
It's a mental thing, like you said, you drank because you needed to escape work, you needed to get out of your head.
Mhm.
And that's, now that I'm sober, those are the things I'm working on. I'm not working on not drinking. I'm working on, what's going on up in here.
Right.
And that was why I stopped drinking, was because it became chemical. The reason
Mhm.
my life got unmanageable was because the chemical addiction made me drink way more than I would have ever drank, because I started drinking because I was stressed, or I was
Mhm.
having anxiety, or I felt overwhelmed, or so it was like all those mental things that I was trying to escape. I used alcohol as a mechanism. I
Mhm.
self-medicated. We say all the time,
Yeah.
self-medicated. And there, I have pain, I have back pain, I have all these things, and but they're excuses because I'm sober now and I'm working through all those
Mhm.
things. um
But you know, it's just like when you're gonna sing karaoke, right? If you're gonna go up there, you're gonna pound a few beers, and then you're gonna be like the best Shania Twain version of yourself that you can be, right? And so, just like in this meeting, I had anxiety. I was like, oh my god, I could use a drink right now. But what's it gonna do? Just make me like chitter chatter, you know, a little more, or um, not be as present. And so that yeah.
yeah, so now you've been sober for almost a year, which is
Yeah.
awesome, by the way. And you dealt with some cervical cancer. And
Right. So
are
mhm.
you can I ask, are
Yeah.
you able to have kids, or is that
So yeah,
something?
that was part of the journey, and that's why I feel like I'll probably never drink again, is because some of the things that I've experienced in the last 10 months have been so terrible and honest that I couldn't think of another excuse to want to pick up again, you know.
Right.
So I went through these things sober. So you know, that was in November this incident happened. I don't recall anything that's happening to me. And then I'm making the appointments to get the hysterectomy, you know, but the doctors are having to get it approved because I'm 32 years old, and they don't do that kind of
Right.
procedure for somebody when, you know, we're that young, and I don't have kids. So they're, you know, we're attacking it in an aggressive but strategic way. And then I go in for that appointment, and we discover that I am pregnant. You know, this is January
Oh,
now. And
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
so I was pregnant, and it was a shock. Right? It was like, I'm only in this much time into my recovery, like, am I gonna want to drink? Like, now I understand why parents use when they're pregnant, because it doesn't just go away. You don't say, oh, I'm pregnant, so I'm not going to use. You know. And that's kind of where I found myself, and that's why I had to re-identify, actually, at a meeting, because yeah, granted, I have over 300 days without a drink. I did lose my child, and I went through that loss in February, and I didn't know what to do. You know, I was
Oh,
new.
wow.
I didn't have a sponsor yet. I was going to a meeting a week, but I wasn't quite diving into, you know, the spirituality of everything. I was really struggling with why I was trying to get sober in the first place. Like, I always told myself there's a timeline. Like, oh, I can get drunk, but like when I get pregnant, or when I start a family, or when I, you know, get into a healthy relationship, I'm going to stop drinking. So when the doctors told me in November, you're not going to be a mother, I said, well, what's the point then? What's the point? So I took the handle, I drank the bottle, I blacked out. And like I said, I was dating somebody at the time that I couldn't have that conversation with. If I had been in a healthy relationship, I would have said, hey, this is our timeline. We need to have these kids now. because this cancer is creeping up on us, and I couldn't have those conversations. And I had just gotten out of an engagement, it was a 5-year relationship where I was dealing with that, so the loss of my child in February was probably one of the worst things that I could have gone through. So
How did you stay sober during that? 'Cause that's like, that's one of my fears. I mean,
mhm,
I always think that, I'm so strong and I've got a sponsor and I'm working my steps
yeah,
and I have accountability and I have motivation, but I always fear like if something really, really bad happened, like losing a child, like you
yeah.
lost your child, like I would,
Mhm.
pick up and drink again. What kept you sober through that?
My family, I'm very, very lucky to have my dad and my mom are very nosy individuals, but they've kept me straight. They're super involved in my life, and I can tell them anything. And so I told them right away, like, hey, I'm pregnant, this is going on. It was like, oh my God, you're not even dating anybody. What is. And so there was all these conversations and mixed emotions, and I was able to hold my mom's hand through the whole thing. And I I was very fortunate for that. Um, and I didn't, even though I didn't pick up a drink, I did, use some marijuana. I
Okay.
smoked. And that's why I re-identified for myself, because we get these chips in these meetings, right? And so when I took my 9-month chip, I thought to myself, yeah, I know, like I'm struggling, like I haven't had a drink, but I did this, but I don't want to feel bad for my, self, because I know I didn't drink, but I was also trying to go through something in my life that was like super hard. It was super difficult, and I couldn't go through it. I knew what was going to make me feel better. I
Right.
knew it was going to make me feel better. And the physical pain that came with something like that.
Right.
I was just like, okay, but I knew that I couldn't drink. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want this loss to be in vain. I couldn't probably have gotten pregnant if I were still drinking. So I thought it was a blessing that, so early into my recovery, that I had found such, a gift, that the doctors were telling me that I couldn't get pregnant. And here I am pregnant. Yeah, granted, it resulted in a loss. But if I'm just going to fall down the hole, then how am I going to give myself an opportunity again? And so that's what really keeps me sober. I think about that child who never really got to be here, and I'm trying to live that life. Like, okay, I'm not a mom today, but what am I going to do with my day otherwise? So not drink. How about that? Let's start there. Because
Right.
if I were a mother, like my due date was in September, so that was a rough, period for me. Like I would have been, a mom in September now, right? I would have been a
Right.
mom, and um, I'm just so grateful for the things I get to do now. Like I don't look at it as like, oh, I don't get to be a mom today. It's just I'm going to maybe be a mom one day if I continue to stay sober, if I continue to work on
Right.
myself,
Yeah.
and so it took 300 days for me to ask for help, to ask for a sponsor. So I didn't get a sponsor right away. I just got one, and I'm starting to read the book and go through the steps and things like that. So everybody's journey is different. Everybody's sobriety journey is different. I see a lot of girls get discouraged because they might smoke 15 cigarettes now a day than before when they were drinking. And I said, you know what? One thing at a time. Handle each vice at a time. Nobody's perfect. And like you said, it's mental every day.
It is, and I want to say, I'm I'm amazed. I
Hmm.
really am. The fact that have cancer, going through cancer. They tell you you can't have kids, and then you get pregnant,
Hmm.
and then you lose your
Hmm.
baby, and and then continue to be sober. I mean, good job. I mean,
Yeah.
that encourages me because I have zero excuses, and I think there's a lot of women out there too that have been in your situation. I know when
Hmm.
I heard your story, a little bit of it, I mean, this is a lot more of it, which is awesome. But I remember sitting across from you and just like my eyes peeled open because I thought, wow, I mean, if this woman can stay sober through all of that, like I can stay sober. And you
Hmm.
don't realize, you know, there's situations that happen in your life that are going to help other people. And I know that you've helped me. And, now that we're on this podcast, there's going to be women out there that have had miscarriages, or
Mhm.
they've drank during their pregnancies, or they've had something, they've had a loss in their life, and they're trying to go, why should I stay sober through this? And like you said,
Mhm.
you're staying sober because you want to be healthy and you want clarity. You want to make
Mhm.
sure that you're not having blackouts and not knowing if you got hit by a car or not.
Yeah.
And that's crazy, but it's true, and I
Yeah.
commend you for that. I think it's incredible, and I think that you should be proud of yourself, and I think you're going to encourage a lot of people. So
Yeah.
I want to say thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing. I know that you have a question for me that you wanted to ask. I've been kind of asking anybody who comes on, if you have a question you want to ask me. So shoot, I'm ready.
I know. Well, I don't really have like well, first of all, thank you for having me. I could talk all day, have me again. And we'll just to pick a topic. But, my question for you is just back to what you said this morning, like that interaction from your kid yesterday. I just want to hear more about how you feel. Like that was freaking
Yeah,
amazing. Like
I
for us, that's a huge, like, other people listening are probably like, I don't understand, like, if they don't have kids, right? But this is a big deal.
yeah,
Like
it was a
the
big deal. It was I was so many mixed emotions. I have to say that again, like you said, your mom, my mom is a pillar in my
Mhm.
sobriety. She was there the day I went into the hospital and finally asked for help. She's the one that dropped me off at detox. She's the one that picked me up from
Mhm.
rehab. She has been somebody who has been so encouraging, and it blows my mind because I was like so terrible to my mother. Like, when I was growing up, I was terrible, and then when I got drunk, I said the meanest things, and there were periods of times where I didn't talk to her forever and
Mhm.
ever. And then I'm over here complaining that my kids aren't talking to me.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's because of social media,
Mhm.
because every day in 24 hours, so much can happen.
Right.
Like so much can happen because you've got all these platforms, and there's
Yeah.
this happening, that. So it's like a day that goes by that I don't hear from my kids. I feel like I'm missing out on 17 different things.
Oh, yeah.
So when I wasn't talking to my mom, I felt it didn't feel as long to me. It didn't feel as
Mhm.
long. And it was funny because when my kids started doing the things that I did to my mom, I remember I called her and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm sorry." Like,
Right.
"I'm sorry, mom." And she was like, "Finally, it only took you 40 years, but
Right.
thank God she's forgiving in that part." But yeah, my mom is a big part of my sobriety, and and
Mhm.
and you need that. You need people. It doesn't have to be your mom, it can be anybody.
Right.
um I fortunately have a huge support system, so that's huge. But there might be people out there who have nobody,
Mhm.
and their life has become unmanageable. But I was full of emotions. I was in my truck. I got the text, and I had to pull over, and I was on the phone with my sponsor because I talk to my sponsor every single morning. I have homework every day.
Mhm.
I need a very strict regimen, and because I'm a very hyperactive person. I'm
Yeah.
constantly doing things, and so my I'm a Leo. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm straight up Leo all the way with like steroids. And so I pulled over and I just started crying. Like, immediately I started crying. And right away my sponsor was like, "Put your fingers away." Because the first thing I want to do is text back,
Right.
and like my
Uh-huh.
first emotion was, "Oh my God, oh my God, yes,
Yeah.
awesome, finally we have some stream." And then I go into this depression mode. I'm like, "Well, what about my other daughter?" Well, now what do I say? I was hurt when you didn't call me on Mother's Day, and I was hurt when you didn't call me on my birthday, and I was hurt. Oh, it's all about me. All of a sudden I go right into this selfish mode, and it's like, I need to step back. They're grown adults, and I need to be a living amends. It hasn't been long enough. Um, Restoration. I don't know if you read the
Mhm.
daily reflection, but I read the daily reflection every day, and it was
Mhm.
exactly about that today. So it was just, it's amazing how, things are progressing. And it
Yeah.
wouldn't, if I was drinking, I would never even gotten that text from my daughter. So I have to think about that.
Mhm.
And so I have peace that what I pray, my prayers were answered, because I've been
Mhm.
praying for just some sort of streamlined communication. But at the same time, there's so much work to be done because, our family has a lot of damage in it, and that's okay. God's bigger than all that. I believe that.
Yeah.
But thank you for asking.
Hmm.
But that's like I said, maybe in 6 months I'll have my daughter on my podcast. Who
I
knows?
know.
You never
Yes.
know. My daughter actually has a podcast, so it's
Oh,
called Girl Gang Squad, I believe. So
yeah.
she's a lot like her mom.
Yeah.
She's pretty awesome. Both my kids are incredible. But yeah, so on that, what I'm going to do is go ahead and close out. And again, I'm just going to say thank you so much. It's amazing that, there's so many people who have had blackouts.
Hmm.
I always called them brownouts because I am like, it's bad. It's really,
Yeah.
really bad. So, um, I hate it. And I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that anymore. We
Right.
all joke about, oh, no hangover, but
Hmm.
we didn't have hangovers like people have, like, oh, I have a headache. Like, I would wake up in the morning and it was like, where is my wallet? Where
Yeah.
is, what did I do with this? And there's wine all over the place. And,
Right.
it was just a mess all the time. And
Yeah.
I would make a funny story out of it. I would joke with my friends. They started joking with me, like, tell us the new Crystal story, like what happened
Exactly.
in your
Yeah.
life. And I'm like,
And
oh yeah, my roommate, she had this guy over. This is actually a true story. So I was sharing a house. It was this huge house in Florida, and there was like 7 of us renting it,
yeah.
right? And my roommate has this boyfriend that she has come from out of the state, and she's like, yeah, let's all go and let's go party. And so we go out and we party, and next thing you know I'm in an Uber. I don't even know where I'm at. I have to literally Google myself. I had to like ping my own self on my phone, like, where are you? And then call an Uber, and literally I
Yeah.
had no idea where I was. And I lost that friendship with my roommate that night. Like, we literally,
Oh,
I
yeah.
came home and she was like, you were so mean to me, and you said this and you said that, and
Yeah.
I didn't remember anything.
Any of it.
And she ended up moving out because of
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
I just like, and my landlord was like, what happened? And I'm like, I
Like,
don't know.
mhm.
Like, I guess
Yeah.
I was mean. I have
And
no
like,
idea,
right. How can you be sorry? Like, you can't be
Yeah.
sorry if you don't remember what happened.
Yeah.
And
So
that's happened to me with a lot of my friends,
what a disaster, though. What a
Yeah.
disaster. So I'm glad I'm sober. I'm glad you're sober.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you came on the show, because I think you're really going to help a lot of people. And yeah,
Yeah.
let's definitely collaborate again. So
For sure.
again, I'm going to say thank you. And
Thank you.
also, I just wanted to let everybody know that you can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen. And I'm excited to announce that now we have sponsors and patrons, which is really awesome. You can go to the website and you can click on patrons, or you can just do it online through Instagram. And so I want to shout out to a couple people that I'm really excited about. Greg in Las Vegas, and I also have Leslie in Florida. Those are some awesome patrons. And then I also have some sponsors, Jackie in Hawaii and Judy in Florida. So thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate you. And Synthia, thank you so much. You're so awesome. I can't wait to post this episode. And with that, this is Crystal with Sober Onions. And remember, if I can do it, we can do it.